This is my rundown for AEW Revolution 2026. If you've seen a rundown before, you know how I do this. I'm just going to go through each match that's on the card, then I will go through my quick predictions of who I think is going to win and that. So let's not waste any time. Let's just get into it now. So there's about 12, 13 matches confirmed. Obviously, this being AEW, there might be more added. But considering, as I'm recording this, Thursday, the 12th of March, doubt it because we've just had the last Dynamite before the show. But you never know if anything will happen on Collision. So starting off, we've got Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong versus the Dogs of David Finlay, Clark Connors, and Gabe Kidd. So that'll be an interesting trios match, especially considering David Finlay's just debuted in the company. Then we move on to the Babes of Wrath, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale versus Megan Bayne and Lena Cross for the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships. Obviously, with what happened in the last match, with Penelope Ford getting injured, was a disappointment, and obviously can't be stopped and that because injuries, happen whenever. But yeah, so I'm guessing this is just going to be what should have happened then. Then we get Timeless Tony Storm versus Maria Shafir, with everyone banned from ringside, so we'll get a straight singles match. Then we get Don Callis' family of Kazuchika Okada, Carl Fletcher and Mark Davis versus Mystico and Jet Speed for the AEW Trios Championships. Clearly, Jet Speed has been left to one side because Hangman's got more important things to do than focus on the trios, which is a bit fair enough, and they found Mystico here. This will definitely be a fun match, I reckon. Then this moves us to a 2 out of 3 falls match for the AEW Women's World Championship of Tekla versus Chris Statlander. With who's in the match, this should be a really good match. And considering we're getting a lot more newer talent and a lot of more deserving talent given the spotlight in the Women's World Championship division, hopefully this could be the match that Tekla needs to establish her title reign. And speaking of establishing, we then get Brody King versus Swerve Strickland in a straight singles match, which will be interesting considering Swerve has not long just turned heel and Brody King has been getting a real good push. So this could be an interesting match when it comes to predicting. And then speaking of getting pushes, we've also then got Andrade El Idolo versus Bandido, the other half of Brodido, in a singles match. And much like Brody King and Swerve, both seem to be getting a big push, obviously, so it could go either way. So it'll be a good match no matter what, same as Brody King and Swerve. Then we get Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita in a no time limits match for the AEW Continental Championship. Now, after a very good run in the Continental Classic last year, Jon Moxley is now going against Takeshita. This should be a really good match and hopefully may further the Takeshita splitting from the Don Callis family. But we'll have to wait and see. Then we've got FTR versus the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championships. This will be a great match no matter what, but I am starting to get a bit worried that they're go into the well one too many times, because they fought multiple times, and it might just be me. Each time they face, the matches aren't as great as the previous one. So the first one was really good. The one at Wembley that I was there for, the first show, was really good, but it wasn't as good as the first one. And then you had the ladder match, which was fine. Now, it's been a long time since I watched it, but I remember it being fine enough. So hopefully this will be a good match. Obviously FTR's heel and the Young Bucks are once again face, so the dynamic is where you would want it to be. Then we get, obviously, what will be the main event of MJF versus Hangman Adam Page in a last chance Texas death match for the AEW World Championship. And if Hangman loses, he will never be able to challenge for the AEW World Championship ever again. So if you remember way back to the very first Full Gear, this is the Cody stipulation in that vein, and there's a lot on the line in this match, and it's probably the most difficult one to predict. Which, to be fair, all AEW matches can be difficult to predict here, because they will swerve you in a way of, we might go this way, we might go that way. But if you watch my WWE Elimination Chamber rundown, turns out I can't predict that either, so we'll have to go. And speaking of predicting, it's time for my predictions. So going back to the beginning, the trios match of Darby, Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong versus the Dogs. I'm going to go with the Dogs. This is David Finlay's first pay-per-view over here in AEW. He needs the big win, and this will establish the Dogs as a threat in the trios division, and then eventually, probably in a couple of months, they'll win the trios championships. So yeah. Then we go on to the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships. I'm going with Megan Bayne and Lena Cross to win, even though, like I said, they were supposedly meant to win it before Penelope Ford got injured. I reckon they're probably going to swap places here. And now, then going on to Timeless Toni Storm versus Maria Shafir. This may shock people, but I'm going to go with Maria Shafir. I reckon this is going to be an establishing match that, yes, Toni is a multi-time women's champion and is great, and I still love Timeless Toni Storm. I think this might be the time that Maria Shafir shows that she can beat the best without anyone, and it establishes the trios championship match. It's the Don Callis family here. Okada, Fletcher, Mark Davis. It's just furthering this tension and the brewing of the implosion of the Don Callis family. And yeah, them keeping the trios titles in the family makes sense to me. Then the AEW Women's World Championship match of Tekla versus Statlander. This is Tekla's to win, I think. This is where she needs to establish herself to become the new world champion. And that, a bit like how, just like Chris had to have the match with Toni Storm to establish her reign wasn't just a fluke, I reckon this is where you do the same for Tekla. And that, for me, I would say is the easier matches to predict. Now we come on to the more difficult matches to predict of, first off, Brody King versus Swerve. Brody has been on a good run and the fans are really behind him, but he hasn't beaten Max for the world title, but also Swerve has just turned heel. So it's going to be either way for me, but I really think Swerve's going to win here. And it's going to establish him as a big the big next heel in under MJF. He is going to be the big next heel. Then that brings me to Andrade versus Bandido. Now, do you have both of Brodido looking up at the lights, taking the L? You might think otherwise, but I do think that AEW really see something in Andrade in this second run, and I think Andrade is going to win here because he's getting a lot of push into the main event, and I think they're going to keep him there. That then brings us to Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita for the Continental Championship. Jon Moxley. I could see Takeshita getting a shock win here, and Moxley won't lose anything here. He will carry on. Mox is always going to have a mainstay appearance in the roster, but I reckon it's going to come down to Takeshita is going to take the L, but the noble L. He's not going to be trying to cheat his way. I think he wants to prove himself, and that will also further the tensions with the Don Callis family, hopefully. And you never know, you may get some interference from the Callis family in this match. FTR versus the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championships. Again, could go either way here. It's most likely going to be the Bucks are going to win, because obviously they've not long turned face. Obviously that was back at Forbidden Door, Full Gear, I do believe. And FTR have had the titles for a while, but I reckon FTR might just sneak the win here and it be a swerve win here. Pardon the pun, I don't mean it like that. But yeah, I think FTR will get the surprise win here. And it may lead to a rematch at Double or Nothing, or even hold off until All In at Wembley, and you do another match there, and then the Bucks win, because obviously last time they fought in Wembley, the Bucks lost, so you could do a redemption arc there. This is the first step of that. Then this brings us to the main event, and definitely the most difficult match to predict because it has the most stakes. MJF versus Hangman Adam Page in a Texas death match for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. And like I said, if Page loses, he will never be able to challenge for the AEW Championship. And the wording here is the AEW World Heavyweight Championship ever again. Doesn't specifically say as long as MJF is champion. So it is like Cody. Now, do I think Hangman's going to win here? No. I don't think Hangman's going to win here, because I think the plan is, hopefully, if Will Ospreay is on the road to recovery, I think he will come back, win the Owen Hart tournament, and it'll be him versus MJF. Rerun that match back again at Wembley, and that'll be when Ospreay will become AEW World Heavyweight Champion. But do I think this will be the last time we see Hangman challenge and possibly win the world title? No, I think they'll somehow back out of it. But they've got to be careful, because look at what happened with Cody. That being said, though, I reckon that MJF is going to win. That's my prediction. MJF is going to retain his world title. But even though it's in a Texas death match, I reckon it's going to be some sort of smosh finish where Hangman doesn't lose. Say Mox in their Texas death match last year, he tapped out. It's going to be some sort of screw finish that MJF still comes out as champion, but Page didn't technically lose in the traditional sense, so therefore there won't be so much of a backlash if he challenges for the world title again. So yeah, that's my predictions. They are, now that might sound like it's a very heel heavy win for the show. Yeah, it is, but at the same time, there's a lot of heels that need that establishment, and that, considering there's a lot of new stars, like I said, if it wasn't for the fact they're really trying to push Andrade, I wouldn't have gone for Andrade here, but considering they're trying to push him into the main event scene, that's why I'm going with him. Obviously, and then you get the obvious ones, like the Don Callis family isn't going to drop the trios titles. You know, Megan Bayne and Lena Cross, they're probably going to win the belts, considering that was the original plan, obviously, with Penelope Ford. So I reckon they're just going to... But at the end of the day, it's AEW. You never know. But the one thing you can guarantee you with an AEW show is it's going to be good, and probably much better than the last couple of WWE shows. So, hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the rundown once again. Keep an eye out. Please be patient with my videos. It is a very difficult process for me, being on my own doing it all, and obviously having to balance this around actual work. If I could, I would just put 100% focus on this, but I can't. I do apologise. So if there are delays with my videos coming out, please just be patient. I'm trying my best. But that being said, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you soon. Bye.